What is up, guys? Ed here. Thank you for tuning in and welcome back. If you guys find anything valuable in any of these videos at all, please leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. We got to get this out to the world because this is some valuable information that could definitely help some people. With that, let's get into today's topic, how to plan a steroid cycle. Now, I'm going to give you an example of my upcoming summer shred cycle, and we're going to dive into it just to explain how I plan my cycle to hopefully make it a little bit easier for you guys. Now, this isn't a what compounds to pick video. This is more how to structure your cycle, how to make it easy to look at, easy to read, easy to follow, and how to properly plan it out so that you can stick to what you want to do. So, with that, before we even get into the cycle planning itself, a couple quick notes. Always have everything on hand before you're even starting. That should be a no-brainer. But when I say everything, I mean everything. All of your gear, whether you're doing injectables, orals, SARMs, if you're adding peptides or whatever it is, have everything on hand beforehand. All of your supplements that you're going to take, all of your ancillaries, all of your PCT drugs if you're going to take a PCT or if you're going to cruise after it. I follow blast and cruise method. I run 150 milligrams of testosterone year round, so I don't really worry about the PCT stuff. But yeah, if you're going to do that, have it on hand. Hardware, every syringe, needle, alcohol swab. If there's a shortage somehow, some way, you're going to want to have everything on hand first. So, no brainer, duh. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Of course, it's going to depend on, whether you're bulking, shredding, select the right compounds for your stack, okay? There's a whole lot of videos that'll go into detail to tell you which compounds to use when. This isn't that video. This is how to properly structure a steroid cycle. So, for example, let's check out my little spreadsheet that I have here. Boom, I'm going to put it up on the screen so that you can check it out, and I'm going to dive into each of the separate sections and tell you kind of why they're there and what their purpose is. So, as you can see, let's take a look at the first chunk here. My summer cut cycle, it's going to be a 16-week cycle, so I am laying out everything by the week. So you're going to see in this first section, it's literally what week is it? And did I do my injection yet or not? That's what this table is. So literally, I cross it out once I do it. So week 1, Monday PM. Sometime Monday afternoon, boom, I'm going to do that. I'm going to cross it out. And then on my next one, Friday AM, I'm going to do that, cross it out. So the reason I kind of structure it this way, just to preface, I do my TRT twice a week. So I take 75 milligrams on Monday, 75 milligrams on Friday for a total of 150 milligrams of testosterone per week. I split it up into 2 separate doses. Some guys do 1 big dose. Some guys do little tiny doses every single day. I find twice a week it's a good balance, good medium for me where I don't have to keep jabbing myself all the time. So for the first few weeks, I'm going to continue with that. And then I'm going to go 3 times per week, and I'll explain why. So the reason I'm doing that is because the first 2 weeks of my cycle, I'm giving my body a little period to adjust. Now, I don't want to go balls in with the full amount of my cycle right away, because that's how you run into issues. That's how your body responds negatively to things, especially if you either haven't run XYZ compound before, if you're trying a new compound, if you're trying a new dosage of something, whatever it may be, it's a lot safer to start a little bit lower and work your way up. So that's typically what I do for all of my cycles. You'll see a little 2-week period where I step it up, and then for the remainder of the cycle, I will step it to the full dose, and then the final 2 weeks, I'm going to step back down, let my body gradually come off of the stuff, rather than stopping it cold turkey. So I just think that's good practice. It gives your body more time to adjust and regulate, rather than just hitting it like a brick wall and then stopping cold turkey. So I always have a 2-week period to adjust and a 2-week period at the end to come off. Now, if you'll look here, I have all of my compounds color coordinated. So this first chunk here, I'm gonna go and just explain what these columns are. So check it out. This is my doctor prescribed TRT medication. It's testosterone cypionate dosed at 200 milligrams per milliliter. I'm gonna keep that the exact same throughout the cycle. I'm gonna keep taking my 150 milligrams of that as usual. So you'll see this first column, that's my weekly total for this compound, 150 milligrams. That's gonna remain constant because that's what I do all year round. I'm not gonna up that at all. I'm gonna up some other things, which I'll explain later. So you'll see the first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks. In that second column, I have a per injection CC. So this is how many CCs I'm gonna inject every time. And those first 2 and those last 2 weeks where I'm doing 2 per week, it's a little bit bigger injection volume. When I get to weeks 3 through 14, we're only down to 0.25 cc's per week. That's because we're splitting it up into 3 separate doses. So the more you dose it, the smaller the doses are. So if you do the math here, 0.25 times 3, that gets you 0.75 cc's per week. 0.75 times 200 milligrams per milliliter, boom, 150 milligrams per week. So the math adds up. Awesome, perfect. Now, I'm going a step above my normal TRT dose because I'm doing a cycle, right? So I gotta add a little bit extra sauce. So to do that, I'm really gonna step up the test and I'm doing it in a weird way, okay? So most people will pick one type of test. They'll pick either testanentate, test cypionate, test propionate. I'm doing a little blend. So as you'll see, my second compound here is test C. Test cypionate. I get it from somewhere else. So whereas my doctor prescribes it at 200 milligrams per milliliter, the test C that I get from elsewhere is dosed at 250 milligrams per milliliter. So I'm going to titrate up, like I said, my first 2 weeks. The weekly total is 150, and then for weeks 3 through 14, I'm stepping it up to my full dose of test CYP, which is going to be 250. So if you add that to the other 150 that I'm taking, that brings me to a total of 400 milligrams of testosterone cypionate for the week. Now, I'm also adding in a little bit of test propionate. 1, just because I want to try it out. Haven't tried propionate before. I'm excited to give it a go. 2, I want to see if it can actually kick in quicker, which it will. Typically, when you take, testanentate or cypionate, you're looking at, 3 to 4 weeks before it's really building up in your system and you start to feel the full effects. I kind of want it to hit a little harder, a little sooner, so I'm adding in some test propionate. Also, because I don't know if you guys saw my previous video on the different esters of test, but pretty much, I would check out that video if you haven't yet. As you go longer in the ester, you get less and less test that's actually, in there because it's attached to the ester and the oil, and that takes up a lot of the weight. Typically, the shorter the ester, the more testosterone you're gonna get. So go check out my previous video. You'll see that per 100 milligrams, you're gonna get about 90 milligrams of actual test in propionate, whereas with, say, cypionate or enanthate, you're looking at about 70 milligrams per 100 milligrams. So you're gonna get more test in the test P. So I just kind of want to see, I'm stepping it up to a higher dosage. Let me get as much of the test in there as I can. So at full dose, I'm going with 210 test propionate per week. So add that on to my 400 test CYP, and we're looking at 610 milligrams of testosterone per week. All right. So that's the highest amount of testosterone I've done to date. Typically when I do a cycle, 400 to 500 milligrams is where I'm at. I want to step it up. I want to get a nice cutting cycle, get nice full big, and see really, I want to push the limit this time. So that's why I'm going with a little bit higher test. I'm also adding in Primo. I have experience with Primo in the past. Love it. It's a great addition to the testosterone. It works to lower the estrogen. There's a lot of great properties to Primo. But yeah, we're not going to dive into all the details. This is just structurally. So you'll see same thing as with the test, the Primo. I'm 2 weeks, a lower dose. Next 12 weeks, I'm at my full dose, which is going to be 300 milligrams per week. And then the last 2 weeks, I'm going back down a little bit, give my body time to adjust. So I'm adding in the Primo. It's going to control a little bit of that estrogen. It's also going to add some milligrams to the total. So you add 300 to that 610 of test. You're looking at 910 milligrams per week of gear. Now, I ran different ratios of test and Primo in the past just to experiment, try it out on my body, see what works. I've gone as much as 1-to-1 where I ran about 400 test, 400 Primo, and my estrogen was actually a little bit low. So this time around, I'm going with like a 2-to-1, which they say, 1.25, maybe 1.5 is the sweet spot. But I'm going a little bit higher with the test, a little bit lower with the Primo because I'm also going to add in some Proviron. And Proviron is going to have a similar effect to Primo where it will lower estrogen slightly. So I don't want to tank my estrogen. As always, guys, you should be getting blood work, okay, to know exactly where it's at. So get it before, during, after. Know what your blood work's telling you. So I do get my blood work done often. I'm getting a good feel for how my body responds to certain amounts of certain compounds. So yeah, I'm going to add in some Proviron as well. The reason I'm going with this kind of schedule here, 3 days a week, is because frankly, I don't feel like sticking myself like 3-4 times a day with a bunch of different pins. I'm also adding in HCG. HCG is great to have on any cycle, any TRT. I take it now on TRT. I'm going to continue it throughout my cycle. HCG will keep your nuts working so you don't do any permanent damage to your boys while you're on the sauce. So look into HCG if you don't know about it yet. I'm also taking glutathione. That has a lot of benefits as well. So with all of the gear, all of the peptides, I don't want to be pinning 3-4 times a day. You get sick of it, you get tired of it. So I'm sticking to 3 times a week. Nobody's going to convince me to do 7 days a week. Screw that, don't feel like doing it. That's my personal preference. Some guys love doing every day, is what it is. That's not me. I think 3 is plenty. That's perfect for me. So this is how I structure my cycles. I do it week by week with things that I can literally check off. So I check off once I did it, boom, I know it's done. Set a reminder on your phone too in case you forget. It might be Monday night and you gotta work late and you get home and you start eating dinner and oh shit, you forgot to take your injection. So set a reminder on your phone when to do it and then cross it off once it's done. So I know exactly how many cc's I'm doing. If you see, boom, week 1, for example, I'm taking 0.375 of my test from the doctor, 0.3 cc's of my test 250, 0.7 cc's of my test propionate, and 0.25 of the Primo. Load it all up in one syringe, boom, put it in, game over, done deal. Easy, okay? So my columns, I have the weekly total just to remind me how much I'm doing total per week, just because that's what I like to know. It's just a good piece of information. And then the second column of each compound is how much I'm actually doing per injection. So you'll see that it will change. For example, let's take a look at the Primo column. When I'm doing the first 2 weeks, I'm only taking 100 milligrams of Primo. So I'm taking 0.25 cc's on Monday, 0.25 cc's on Friday. Then I'm going to step it up once I get to my full dose of 300. I'm taking 0.5 cc's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 0.5 plus 0.5 plus 0.5. That's 1.5 milliliters a week. Multiply that Primo by the concentration, 200 milligrams per milliliter, and that gets you 300. The math works out. You got to be good at math if you're going to start doing steroids too. So get the math down, guys, all right? I have this little side piece here just to show my weekly total and how many cc's I'm doing per injection, just because I think that's cool to know. So for the first 2 weeks, when I add up all of my test and my Primo, I got 540 milligrams of injectables going in. When I'm at the full dose for weeks 3 through 14, I got 910 milligrams of injectables going in. And then this is the amount of cc's per injection. Just a cool piece of info to know. And also, you kind of want to know that to pick where you're going to inject, because some guys will try and load up a full 3Cs and then jam it in their delt, and they're like, uh-oh, my delt can't hold that much. So yeah, just kind of plan that out ahead of time. Try and get your injection volumes to match like where you can put them. So example, like your glutes can hold about 3 milliliters, delts about 2 milliliters. It's going to depend on how big you are. Obviously, bigger guy, you can probably hold more, but that's just a general rule of thumb. So I hope that this helps you out to try and make your own spreadsheet. I could probably come up with like a template if you guys want that information. I just think it's a good starting point. It's a good thing to have to really structure your entire cycle. So you have all 16 weeks planned ahead of time. You know exactly what you're doing on each day for each week. It's just a good practice. So you're not skipping injections, doing double on some, forgetting how much, and loading too much into a syringe. And yeah, it can get ugly quick. So this is a way to stay consistent, stay disciplined, and be on track. So I hope this is helpful. If you guys learned anything, I appreciate it if you would comment, share, whatever you want to do. And drop some questions below if you have them. I'm happy to answer them. So yeah. Be safe, get huge, and keep lifting. So that's all I got for you today. And out. Bye-byes.